Hey, welcome to Arkham. I'm your host, Ryan, and thank you for tuning in today. So today we have a special guest, and actually an old-time friend of mine, Charles Marinaro. How are you doing today, Charles?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So a lot has probably happened since the last time we actually saw each other in high school, which is a long time. You're a
Oh my
film
God.
producer. You wrote a book, which I had the pleasure of reading. And you started Catskill International Film Festival. That is pretty awesome.
Thank you so
So
much. Yeah, it's been
yeah,
a long
man.
time since high school. Whoa.
Yeah, yeah. It's been over over 10 years.
Yes.
Yeah, we were actually
Wow.
supposed to have a high school reunion and it never happened.
Yeah, I was really wondering, I think we need to talk to a few, like at the president, whoever the president was at the time. I think it was Corey or Wakeman or something like that of our class, but we need to probably have a talk with him, a sit down, like, hey, listen, what's going on? I think it's been
Yeah,
like
I
13.
got invited to a group and everything. It was supposed to happen. I was like, yes. And then it just didn't happen.
It's really amazing though when you see people years later and see all the things that they've accomplished. I mean, a lot of people I see a lot of people getting married, having kids, whatnot, and I'm seeing people like you having your own show, doing amazing things. It's inspiring. It's really great to see how people have really soared over the last few years.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and you likewise for you. I mean, you are a film producer. That is pretty. I don't think anybody else in that we went to school with can actually say that. That is awesome.
I
So,
know there was a few that I don't maybe
oh,
not that,
really?
but not maybe not with that, but I know a few that have pursued acting after high
Oh, cool.
school and went on to do stuff like that and opened up their own businesses. So it's pretty
Yeah.
pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. So, how did I guess we'll talk about this a little bit when we get your book, but I guess what are you up to now in terms of film?
Well, right now I'm in the post production of two projects. I have a short that I just did this past summer, which was a COVID friendly production. We had social distancing guidelines, hand sanitizers, tons of waivers, you name it. We wanted to get the people out and about, so we and back into creating film because, as you know, what's going on around the world is the film industry has been practically destroyed. Uh,
Yeah.
Whether it's anything performing arts wise has been destroyed, concerts, you know live musicals, whatever you name it, it's been gone. But I really wanted to get, I don't want to say the band back together, so I tried to create something COVID friendly. So this summer created a short film, comedy, uplifting, and everything was shot primarily outdoors, trying to keep it as safe as possible. And we had a really good time, but now I'm stuck with the post production of that. And another film that I did actually before COVID in 2019, it's went through a slew of challenging times with editing. And finally, it's in very trustworthy hands. And yeah, so I have two films in post production right now. And yeah, I'm in pre production of another feature. And yeah, I'm just enjoying it, really.
That's pretty exciting. I don't think a lot of people to think about how COVID has affected so many things. But I think I mean we as a culture, I think we depend on entertainment too, to get us through, especially times like this, to kind of take our minds off of it. So to see you actually going out there and doing that, and even taking the precautions to make art during this difficult time, I think is awesome.
Thank
Um,
you.
hmm.
It
So
was,
how do you think, just real quick, how do you think like COVID has changed things in the film industry?
well, COVID has changed things in the film industry forever, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Whether you're thinking about shooting a film, organizing pre-production for a film, and even in post-production, everything has changed. I mean, you have to be more cautious now of everything you do. So having scenes in like even a like for me an independent film, something small, you still have films where you have to like rent out a diner and have extras and have people intermingling with one another. When you do stuff like that, you're cross contaminating, you're possibly opening yourself up for exposure. So everything's
Hmm.
kind of a risk. And then when you think of like the premiere of films, I've been getting tons of actors I've worked with on the film that I did in 2019. That's a feature. It takes a while to edit. But I've been getting a lot of people asking me like, hey, what's going on with the premiere? And I'm a type of guy who I want to party. I want to celebrate the production, but I want to do it right. And how fun would it be to just release this automatically online? So I do it. This year, we've transformed our festival entirely online. Well, I didn't want to premiere my film for the very first time entirely online. And that's what's going on right now in the film industry. Movies now that are supposed to premiere and have these big blockbuster openings are going directly to HBO Max.
Yeah.
And I'm the type of guy who the cinema is like a second home for me. I realm in there. I love it. But now
When I was
home
reading your book, there was a part where you were talking about going to the movies. And honestly, it reminded me a lot of when I was in high school and I was in the movies and I counted. I had my stubs, I would save them all. I had like 55 stubs, and that was in 1 year. I just saw 55 movies in the movie theater. And I lived there, man. I loved it. It's an experience, you know?
That was
Yeah.
me. That was me. I actually had I think it was a membership called Stubs, where every certain amount of tickets you got points. I was that guy. Every weekend I'd see a movie, and I felt like any good thing, you have to study others. So as a filmmaker, to get good at it, you'd have to watch many films. It's like if you're a writer, you have to read a lot of books, or else you're just going to be thinking you're the greatest of all time. So
Yeah.
I would find myself in the movie theater probably every Friday or Saturday night, and COVID kind of stopped that. And I was trying to find a way, like I was transferring over the border to PA. PA has a theater over there, and very nice, very clean, very safe. But New York was shut down for such a long time, and people aren't going to the movies right now. They're seeing them from the comfort of their own home. So that's one of the reasons why my partner and I, we had to adapt our film festival so that people would feel safe, yet still feel celebrated as filmmakers to go to, see their movie.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
It's been an interesting year. So to answer your question, sorry if I'm long-winded with that, but to change it, COVID really did change everything, whether you do auditions, like they're primarily all online now, and that takes a lot out of it. When you see someone in person, there's something different. And I was telling people on my own podcast, I was saying like, it's so weird when you meet someone now and shaking their hand is a thing of the past,
Yeah.
hi, a wave, but it's so much different now. You go to an interview and you can't shake, possibly your potential boss's hand. It's weird. And that's the same thing with auditions. It's surreal that we're in this type of world, but we have to adapt to it or we're going to be so much further behind once this is all over.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody saw it coming too. So it was just such a hard transition for a lot of people because it was just so, I don't know, it just caught everybody off guard. And like, all these things that we take for granted, like the movie theaters, it's just not a reality right now. Hopefully soon. But we never really know like how long this thing will last. I think we're rolling on to a year almost
a year, March.
Since we've gone. Yeah, it's crazy. And I think a lot of people took those things for granted. I know I did, and I'm like longing to go to the movie theaters. One thing do you know if I imagine probably drive-ins probably have been a lot more lucrative now.
From my research, we were actually planning that was an idea for the Catskill International Film Festival to evolve to do a drive-in event. And we were in talks with a couple local type theaters. And, we decided not to go with it because it's such a high risk. For example, when a lot of people, it's a liability. You rent out a facility and you're taking the risk as a business owner to run the event. And, my partner and I, we're not really worried about the money. However, taking a financial loss, just throwing money at the wind is something we financially cannot do. So a venue like that, may we, rent it out and have the venue for 3 days or even a week. What if, Cuomo says, yeah, you're not doing that. Do I get my money back? Because it didn't happen with so many other business owners. They didn't get their money back. Salon owners that couldn't, they were still renting out their chair and they were told they couldn't cut hair for months. or, I
Yeah.
hope I'm not getting too political, but
No, man.
that's the type of thing that we were afraid, if we do this, will we get our money back, or how is this going to work? So we decided to continue this online until we knew that the world was open and ready, and that when we did an event, because people are still scared to go out,
Yeah.
they're still afraid to go out in public. And my dream is to have it back in public and do better than ever. When you see people partying and dancing, and they're at an award ceremony holding the trophy and standing in front of the step and repeat. It's
Yeah.
something that filmmakers hold forever. I mean, years ago, I did a Hudson Valley International Film Festival, and before that, I used to do a lot of mixers for Transcending Pictures, which is my company that we do the films from. When we did these things, people would take pictures in front of the backdrop, and with the other cast and crew. And to this day, I see these people like using them, as their promotions, and like parts of the things they were a part of. So
Yeah.
it's important for filmmakers. Networking is very important for anyone in business, whether it's being a part of a chamber of commerce or networking for your next big gig. It's who you know.
Yeah. And you have I think your concern is pretty legitimate. So on the church end of things, I mean, churches were getting shut down from having services in their parking lots. They adjusted, and then they're getting shut down and and in trouble and fined for their social distancing. They're in their cars. I'm like,
Yeah.
it could happen, man. It
It's
definitely could happen.
it's totally insane. On my podcast, the Thursday Exchange, Stefan Bauman and myself, we discussed the same thing. Like, who's the people making the rules that say this is deemed unsafe, however, this is not? Okay, we could still have sports games, and we could still, have peaceful protests by the hundreds of thousands, but we cannot have a church opening with 90 people safely distant from one another. So there's a lot of things that I feel like they're politically driven and motivated, and
Oh, absolutely.
based on how they handle the safety concerns. And I find that to be hypocritical, ludicrous. If it's not right for one, it should not be right for anyone if we're going to set standards. But
Yeah. I completely agree. What gets me, man? Every time I go into a restaurant, it's just like, I don't know. I've been conditioned now. I put my mask on, walk over to the place that I eat, sit down, and it comes off. I'm like, did COVID just disappear for that 10 seconds I walked to my table?
How about this? I'm fortunate enough to work Monday through Friday currently during the day, but
yeah,
who's to say COVID gets worse after 10 p.m.? Like,
God, you didn't know it did. There's that 10 p.m. stream that comes out.
I mean, what if at 11, like you work 3 to 11? I mean, you're a sad individual because you can't get yourself a burger and fries after 10. I mean, it's ridiculous. And that same thing goes for like, the retail outlets. I can't go to the movie theaters and enjoy a movie, which to me is therapy. The theater is therapy, gets me out of my mundane, monotonous life. Yet you're telling me I can't do that, but I can wander around Walmart and wait online by the hundreds. I mean, locally, our Walmart is always packed. So you mean to tell, and I've heard cases of I don't want to spread conspiracy, but I've heard that there's been
That's
COVID.
A dangerous word, man.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to say it, but like, you hear things, and I'm like, well, that's safe, but the movies is not. Or going to church is really unsafe, but Target is not. I mean, yeah, we need food and stuff like that, but you're regulating things totally inappropriate. That's where my views stand with that, and they always have.
Yeah, I agree with you too. And then so this is like a part that I just don't think is talked about enough is like the mental health of people declining because they can't go out and do these things like go to the movies, I know like suicide among youth is going up, and up because they can't get out. They're being isolated. And this is like one of the negative implications of putting people on lockdown for over a year.
Exactly.
Over a year.
When this pandemic first began, I work in kind of healthcare at my day job, I should say. And when it first began, I remember they were like basically relocating staff. And during that time, they said, listen, we're going to put you guys in residences temporarily while, for the next 2 weeks, 2 weeks until everything is cleared up. That's what we were told.
2 weeks of slow spread.
Yeah, 2 weeks. And then, 6 months later in these residences, they finally started opening up other facilities, but it's still going on. This is almost a year later. So no one
Yeah.
really knew what they were going on. But on Facebook in general, there was so much misinformation. Everyone you talked to was a medical expert. Everyone you talked to was a political analyst. They all had all the answers. And at the same time, everybody was numb to the other's beliefs and concerns. And then, one thing flipped to another. And, you're talking about mental health. The things that people love and enjoy, you're basically told to stop. And that's not just like, let me go to the movies, let me go, to the ball game. It was more like we were told, don't go see grandma, don't, visit family during Thanksgiving. They had those funny memes they showed, like Cuomo's
Yeah.
head popping into the window,
Yeah.
peeking at Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, listen, the concern is real. People are
Yeah.
dying, but the people's mental health, you're talking about when you shut down the world for a year, what is going to come of that? Some people's mental health has deteriorated so much. Their financial status has deteriorated so much. I mean, people who had savings, they were a little ahead of the curve prior to the pandemic. They were maybe struggling a little bit, but they might have saved a few thousand. That little, nest egg gone. They just spent up their money, doing whatever. Either was hoard buying or paying their bills. A lot of people were laid off. There's people to this day that still haven't went back to work.
Yeah.
So people's mental
Yeah.
health, you can't pay the bills. What do you think's going to happen? And like, you can't see your family. What humans, we need interaction with one another.
Yeah.
And that's why things like podcasts like this, they're very important. They're interacting, they're getting out there, interacting with just different people in general is very important. I advise anybody who's in a dark place to do the things they love to do and maybe use this time to hone their craft and get involved in what is important to them.
Yeah.
That was my
I
little.
couldn't agree more, man. I'm thinking too, like, just like there's been increases in people abusing opioids, increases in domestic violence situations happening, because I work in kind of the mental health field too. And I've seen this play out before my eyes with some of the people that I work with. I mean, seeing them be robbed too of vital community resources that they would go to get help or get plugged in with somebody.
Yeah.
And just to see that all kind of deteriorate has been really, I don't know, just eye-opening and troubling too. But so, this is obviously COVID has been politicized, and I think kind of everything is politicized now. Like literally everything is political. So I wanted to kind of talk to you and get your perspective, I guess, on like maybe kind of the role that film plays in this political climate. So like we've seen recently the situation that has happened with Gina Carano, which has been has been dominating the news cycle. So what do you think of I guess conservatives in particular, because I do see this, and maybe you see something that I don't. You're in this industry. Do you think there's like a bias toward people that have like more conservative views in Hollywood and in the film industry?
I honestly do believe that is true. And that's for the fact is the industry is practically run by liberals. I mean, a lot of the things that they support are liberal agendas. And is that a bad thing? To me, not necessarily. But when you're censoring people, now, as you can see, I've supported my views on a few things, and people attack you and you're anti-Semitic for supporting somebody or blah, blah, blah. But the truth of the matter is, even if you don't agree with somebody, there's a lot of people I don't agree with. But to tell them, okay, you don't have a job anymore because of your freedom of speech. I mean, you weren't going out there saying come together and burn buildings down. You weren't telling people to do that. You weren't saying we're going to kill people. I mean, let's go back a few months now.
Yeah.
Liberal Kathy Griffin. She
Yeah.
had she did that stunt where she had like a decapitated Trump head.
Yeah.
She apologized. It almost ruined her career, but she's back stronger than ever. So at the time, they did turn on their own. And, right now there's a big thing. And this is like everyone out there, they think Marilyn Manson's a Satanist, whatever's going on with his own agenda because of the sexual allegations against him.
Yeah, I know he got into
canceled.
something with like Evan Rachel Woods, right?
Yeah, they pretty much
Rachel Evan Woods.
Yeah, they pretty much canceled his career. I mean, not career. I mean, he's a millionaire. You're not going to take that from him. And whether you believe him or not, people aren't given the opportunity now to kind of like have their day in court. They're basically guilty.
It's mob rule.
Yeah, you're guilty. Whether and now that I just named those two people because both of those people are very liberal. And the whole thing with Gina, same thing. She posted her beliefs and she's conservative and she was taken down. And we saw it with the whole thing with Parler going on where the conservatives were leaving Facebook. My brother, and one, he's extremely conservative. He left. And I told him, like, listen, you don't like what people have to say. You can simply block them or unfollow them. You don't have to, I'm getting off this whole platform to like erase their existence. Because the truth of the matter is, I think it's important to have two sides of the story. Like, I'm the guy who, though I may have conservative views, I do also have liberal views as well. It depends on what issues we're talking about. So I'm the guy who I will watch the debates on both sides. I'm not so biased that I'm going to close my eyes, like, I don't want to know what they have to say. And I think more people need to be open to the other view, because I think a lot of people, when you have conversations with them, they might not know it, but they're people that put themselves in a suit and they're like, I'm conservative. And then when they tell you what they are, because they're uninformed, they're actually very liberal. And vice versa. There's a lot of people out there that like, they're talking about taxation. I'm being taxed too much and I want less regulations, but they claim to be a liberal. It's just like, dude, really? Do you know what you really are? And I'm not saying that it's because that mob mentality, misinformation that's getting passed around the internet. People really don't know what's going on. They believe everything they read. Wikipedia isn't the source, and Facebook is the new Wikipedia. And it's not a bad thing. It's like, it's a bad thing because I'm Dr. Charles. Drink this and you'll live an extra 10 years. No, I'm not. Don't do that. Don't listen to me. Like I have no credentials in that field, but everybody's a doctor. Everybody's a political analyst. People are now like, whatever they want to be on the internet, and they're getting away with it. It's unfortunate. So I do agree with what you're saying, but I have seen it on the other side of the aisle. It's just, I think it's a little more unforgiving when they're conservative, because let's face it, Hollywood is a lot of liberals. There is some companies that lean, but majority are liberally based.
That has been what I've seen. And me, I'm real turned off largely by progressive ideology, mainly because there's no forgiveness in it. There's no opportunity for redemption. Like once you're canceled, once the mob comes for you, there's no opportunity to come back from that. At least what I'm seeing on the conservative end is, Kathy Griffin is now thriving, like you said. She was for a little bit, it happened, but now she's back. And I think the same with Nick Cannon.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no,
with the whole thing with Kathy Griffin is it happened in the beginning of Trump's presidency. So now that Trump is deemed like the Antichrist in their eyes, and they booted to the curb, now she's like a hero. She's a martyr. She always stood up for what she believed in, but she apologized. She did her old little stunt, and she regretted what she did at the time. But now all of a sudden, I never meant to apologize. But I do agree. I think that it does take away people's, people make mistakes. That's the God's honest truth. And right now you're seeing tons of people it's not just one or two. You're seeing tons of people getting canceled, where it's like people are coming out of the woodwork, 20, 15 years later over, you rub someone's back and gave them a hug the wrong way. And now, okay, you're a sex offender. I mean, if that was the case, I mean, Biden with all the videos, I mean, I'm not trying to get political, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. I try to, the thing is with me with filmmaking is I have a lot of conservative and liberal friends. And
Mhm.
it's so funny that they're so like oil and water with each other, yet in a way in the film industry, they both go hand in hand a lot of times. A lot of the producers and people that back the films, they're conservative. And a lot of people who act and do everything else in the production are liberal. And I mean, I'm not saying this is the way that always works, but that's what I've always witnessed. A lot of the people producing the films and behind the scenes, there are conservative, and a lot of people in front and, you know, making the production go and promoting it are liberal. It's weird. They work together. And that's the thing that I think makes America great, is the two sides working together and understanding their differences, negotiating the topics that they believe in, and not creating this kind of like gang mentality where we can't listen to you or we hate you just because. And it's sad. It's a sad reality. And it's not just Democrat, Republican either. This is
Yeah.
religion. People that do this with people that they don't believe in certain religions or ways of life, people's sexual orientation. People do this too. Oh, we can't talk because you're of this way of life. I mean, it to me that doesn't make sense. I
Yeah.
like you for who you are, you know, whether
Yeah.
you're a good or a bad person, whether what you do. I mean, as long as you're not harming the earth, harming other people, you know, if
Yeah.
you're a genuinely good person, that's all that should really matter. And I think people forgot about that, and they need to get back to basics.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. I also think like social media has like exasperated a lot of this stuff. And if you don't, if somebody doesn't like your views, then they do block you or they do unfollow you. But part of what happens as a result of that is you're only exposed to like one set of ideas. Or if like conservative people ditch out of Facebook and go to Parler. I mean, that's part of the reason I have a Parler account, but I'm going to stay on Facebook because
Absolutely.
I don't want to be in an echo chamber. I don't want to just hear my own worldview echoed back to me. I don't want that. And I don't unfriend people too. Like that's something I will not do unless there are caveats. If you make personal attacks, then yeah, I'm not gonna have anything to do with you. But if you're attacking my ideas, you're debating my ideas, that's fine. I think that's healthy. I think that's good. I think sometimes I need that because it makes me see things in a light that maybe I didn't before.
I totally agree with you. You don't know how many great friends of mine, I'll post something. Like I said, I'm in the film and entertainment, and I try not to get too political because, you know, that's not what I'm here for. I want to entertain
Yeah.
you guys. And even though I'm a human being, I have these beliefs, but every so often I'll post something and someone will be like, you know, they'll say something so off the wall, like, oh, you wouldn't think that way if someone killed your family, or like, you know, go after you personally. And it's like, guys, it's not, first of all, that wasn't what I was trying to get at. And at the same time, like, really, could we not like have a civil conversation without taking low blows? Um, and people take it so personally. They're saying, oh, this happened to me, my family, and blah 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 blah. But at the end of the day, people have different views, beliefs.
Yeah.
This goes all the way back to, you know, the vaccine that's going on
Yeah.
right now. A big thing with the vaccine is people are pushing it, and I'm not going to say certain things, but there's employers out there that basically they're trying to bribe staff to take the vaccine and basically say, you know, it's not a game, you know, take it, you know, people's lives are at risk. They're trying to like basically manipulate people, manipulate staff to feel guilty. At the same time, the vaccine was created where religious, you know, certain religious people may not agree with the way it was made. And
Yeah.
therefore, they don't support it. That's their right. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and you could suggest something, but when you start telling people you're doing this or you're stupid, you're doing this or, you know, you're evil and you don't care about the elderly, you don't care about the weak. You know, when the vaccine was created, you know, through stem cells or vice versa, there might be reasons why you don't take that, you know. And I try not to get too deep into it, but that's That's a
I say
fact.
too, so like this is my thought on the vaccine. Like if you want to take it, that's great. That's fine. That's good. If you don't want to take it, that's fine. That's okay. But yeah, forcing it on people, I think is not the option, or pressuring people is not the option. And I think if so, let's say, and this is something that I just can't wrap my head around. I'm trying, maybe I'm not seeing something, but let's say you decide to get the vaccine and I decide to refrain from getting the vaccine. And Joe Schmo down the road decides to not get the vaccine. Aren't the only people taking the risk the people that choose not to get the vaccine? So you're
Yeah.
protected, you're good. What are you going to worry about what I'm doing?
I mean, I
What are you
feel
going
that
to worry about me?
the whole idea is that, the mentality behind it is that you won't get someone unknowingly sick that hasn't possibly had an opportunity yet to take the vaccine. Now, with that said, every day it's evolving, changing, whatnot. And I feel personally it's happened so quick. But you know, that's like, it's on you. It's your personal choice. Still
Yeah.
use the universal precautions. Wear a
Yeah.
mask when you're
Yeah.
around, not
Absolutely.
people around your friend and family. Wash your hands oftenly, social distance. Do those things. As opposed to maybe meeting all the time, maybe do virtual meetings like Zoom or whatever else is out there. Facebook Live, StreamYard. There's options out there. But getting in people's business about their beliefs system and the way they do things, it's becoming a very scary thing. And the thing that we'll go back a little bit when you're talking about cancel culture and, how they basically wanted to remove her off the Mandalorian and whatnot. It goes back to early thinking back in the 1940s, when Hollywood basically they deemed people as what was it back then? People they were like, maybe I'm too ignorant to say the subject, but it's back in the early Hollywood days. They people were blacklisted in Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
They were thought to be a certain political affiliation. I want to say, yeah, I'm not sure what the affiliation. Maybe you have to edit this part out. But anyways, it happened back in the early days of Hollywood, and it was the same type of thing. You basically were looked at as a communist or whatnot, and they blacklisted you for what your
Wow.
beliefs were. So it's
That's
kind of
crazy.
happening. It's kind of happening again, in a way.
I
It's just the best
also
way to do it.
think too, it's gonna cause honestly the opposite effect of what they're hoping to. So they're trying to silence Gina Carano. They didn't like her views, took her out. But now, like I think she's people that didn't know who Gina Carano was, they do now. They know who she is. And
Oh,
now I think they're building their competition, which I think the Daily Wire, a big fan of them. I think they are going to be an actual contender to mainstream Hollywood. I really believe that. I
it,
did you get a chance to see Run Hide Fight?
no,
Oh, you should, dude. It was actually really good.
yeah. You see, the thing is about Gina Carano, personally, I don't think she's a great actress. I've seen her kick some butt in the day. She's been in, I think she was in a movie called Highwire a few years ago. She was whooping behind. She was awesome in it. I don't think she's a great actress, but like you just said, I totally agree with you. They just catapulted her to A-list status, because if you didn't have Disney Plus, which I don't, I didn't know her really much, but now it's like she's everywhere and she's going to get recognition. She's going to probably get a major multi-million dollar book deal. That's guaranteed. She's going to do giant TV appearances. They're going to ridicule her on CNN, but sometimes negative publicity is publicity and still going to sell. So, and it's the same thing with the whole Trump thing. Love him, hate him, whatever it is, the more you polarize this figure, the more popular he's going to get. So the people I laugh, they're like, oh, he's going to be old in 2024. I agree. Do I think he's ever going to run again? No. But what I do think is he's going to create a political movement that's, you branded him, and whoever, it might be his son, it might not even be, it might be somebody else that's polarizing already in the party, maybe Marco Rubio, maybe somebody like that, who he's going to endorse, and it's going to be a totally different movement. And that's the thing I'm saying. Like, sometimes negative publicity and the name calling and everything, it actually builds somebody out with cancel culture. You can only,
Yeah.
people are curious right now. I mean, where are we? We're a few weeks into Biden's presidency, and everybody's like wondering what Trump's doing. They're curious
Yeah.
because all the news
I
networks,
think I
all
think
the news
even the
networks,
media's
they're
obsessed
bored.
with it.
They're bored. They're like, oh my God, he was, such a polarizing, charismatic figure. And listen, I know a lot of Trump supporters. I know a lot of people who couldn't stand him. And the one thing about it is, with me, like I said, I have a conservative kind of, ideology in a lot of things, but I always thought he could be more eloquent. I always said that. I said, I wish. And then like some of the people that really were supporters were like, listen, we like him because he says what's on his mind. And I want to be, and I gotta refrain because I'm an average Joe. I can't say whatever's on my mind and keep my job. So in a way that kind of supports cancel culture in a way, you and I can't go to our workplace and just run our mouth. We can't just say whatever we want and get away with it. And that's the and that's like the balancing act. Like I can't just go and like say I'm going to do certain things to women or, insult people, because there was a lot of stuff, like I said, that I wish he was more eloquent, whether I was supportive or against him. I just wish he did it smoother.
I think a lot of people would probably fall into that boat. I know I did. I mean, a lot of people probably don't know this, but like in 2016, I was not a fan because of his language, because of the way that he talked. It just turned me off, man. I didn't like it. But that in the same breath, that's the same reason a lot of people love the guy. But not me, man. But I do agree with you that he will be this figure that galvanizes support behind whoever he endorses. Because there's a lot of people. I saw some survey where they were polling, who would be the candidate for 2024, and Trump, like his votes was way more than anybody else. I'm like, people are still really committed to Trump. So whoever he throws an endorsement around, man.
There's no way. Like when I see people, like, first of all, like I don't know why he wanted to run in the first place. I don't know why Biden wanted to do it. I have no idea why elder men who should be retiring want to do any of this stuff. But don't hate me, people watching this. It has nothing to do. It's just my personal belief. I don't understand why you want to do it. Is it a hero complex? I don't know. But at the same time, going back a little, the way I feel things are, like, Trump should be really thanking people like Sarah Palin and Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, not because he liked them or ever got along or whatever, but prior to the Trump years, there was a little thing called the Tea Party movement during the Obama years. That movement evolved. Those fan base supporters evolved into Trump supporters. So now, even if Trump is not the guy that runs in 2024, it's going to be somebody, that he supports. The party is evolving. That's what I'm trying to get to. And it's just, whether you love him, hate him, the idea is cancel culture. Sometimes, you could block him off Facebook, you could block him off Parler, whatever, Instagram. People are still going to support and create he has the money, he could create his own following, internet-based company, But like I said, that's the whole thing with Gina that's going on now. But I have seen them attack their own, and it is funny to see, liberal people going after their own too. It's kind of hypocritical for stuff that they don't follow every day. So
and then that's like canceling
thoughts.
People from like I don't know, tweets or comments or likes or things that they posted a long time ago. I also think, like I agree with what you say. We can't say a lot of the things that we think, because honestly, there's always a chance that someone could be like, oh, well, I want to ruin this person's life, so let me tell their employer and let me try to get them canceled. Like that's a scary place to be. And I think your average person or your average conservative, I think they feel that way, that they can't say anything that might not even be that controversial, because I looked at the comment Gina Carano said, whether you agree with it or not, it wasn't it wasn't this scandalous thing that I thought it was. I read it. I'm like, oh, that's why they're calling her an anti-Semite. That comment
Yeah,
where she's talking against things that led up to the rise of Nazism. Like that's she's asking people not to hate people for their political beliefs. That seems reasonable to me. I would make that comment.
exactly. It is very true, and it reminds me of the book The Lottery. Pick like someone out random. We're all gonna just stone them to death. Um, Goodbye type of mentality. We don't want to be what it is now is these companies, they're so terrified of the almighty dollar, and then they might lose a few viewers. I mean, let me tell you something. I've never stopped liking a song because I found out Joe Schmo voted for whoever. I've
Yeah.
never like said, "Oh my God, I can't watch a Tom Cruise movie because he's a Scientologist." That never went through my mind. And some people, if you're that brainwashed to be like, "Yeah, I can't support this because the lead of it is Jewish or whatnot." I mean, those are the type of people I can't associate with. I really can't. But because for me, it just doesn't make no sense. Like, if you're just going to be blind to everything, you're never going to know the opposing views. You're never going to be truly like be cultured. And
Yeah.
yeah, we don't want that tunnel vision.
Yeah, and I think too, not canceling these people and being open to these other ideas. I mean, you challenge the ideas. You challenge bad ideas with good ideas, and maybe some of the ideas are really not good, and maybe they do need to be challenged. But guess what? They're never going to be challenged if you're pushing your opposition away into other platforms, into other sites, and it's just not going to happen. You're going to create echo chambers.
Mhm.
So so I do think that the net positive of what happened to Gina Carano is going to be building the Daily Wire's entertainment arm, which I think is awesome because I like the Daily Wire. I like a lot of the content that Ben Shapiro shares, Matt Walsh. I love those guys. So to see them actually take on the entertainment industry, I think is actually really refreshing because I think you're going to start to notice that I don't know, like 75 million people hold to some of those ideologies, and they're actually going to have an outlet to get their voice out there and actually see content that actually sells. And believe it or not, I think it's like a misstep on mainstream Hollywood because people want to hear these stories.
Mhm.
People want to hear conservative stories, whether they completely agree with them or not is irrelevant. They want to hear it. Just like sometimes we want to go watch a blockbuster film. Like we want to hear the stories. We want to see what's going on. And I think it's a missed opportunity for Hollywood, but also a gained opportunity for like the Daily Wire. Um,
I definitely agree.
so I do highly recommend checking out Run, Hide, Fight because that film was the first film that they produced, and I do think it's like kind of a good indicator of where they're going. Like I was really worried about watching that film to be honest, because I thought like it's going to be like in your face, like conservative ideas and maybe like a little bit of propaganda, but it wasn't like that, man. It felt like a just a really good, entertaining movie that just had a message in it,
Yeah.
which I appreciated.
I actually seen a movie prior to the pandemic. The title, I'm lost with the title right now, but it was kind of an action movie. It's called The Hunt. The movie
Hmm.
was called The Hunt, and it basically was a satire showing how ridiculous both sides of the aisle are. But the movie
Hmm.
was basically people were put in onto this area, and they were to basically kill one another off in various different ways. And there's these political sides on both sides that are trying to get them, and it's basically the stereotypes of both. And I thought it was really well done. It was right before the pandemic happened, way before the election, but I think it was an important movie. It was ridiculous to say like these are some of the things that people are really like gun-ho about going on
Hmm.
right here in this film. It was called The Hunt. Wasn't the greatest movie ever, but it was definitely a great movie to really turn tables on whatever you believe.
Yeah, I'd like to check that out. So changing gears a little bit. So I got the chance to read your book, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie, the first couple of chapters were definitely difficult for me to read. Um, but I thought like it was well written. I thought it was also cool because I'm like, man, I'm reading the story of somebody that I went to high school with. Like, this is
Yeah,
amazing. Like, this is really cool. And to kind of
thank you.
see your transition and kind of the stuff that you endured, and to see you honestly come out on the other side of it. So would you mind just speaking a little bit about maybe like your motivation to write this book, and telling us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I really wanted to write a book in general, and I spent many years of my life, scripting ideas and finishing manuscripts and then looking at them to collect dust later on. And I always had autobiographical content in these stories. And there was a lot of things that happened in my life that I kind of wanted to pay homage to the people. And I didn't want to like hide it, So I was like, what would it be if I actually just made a book about myself, you know, and actually told the stories as is? The names and the whereabouts in that book, of course, are changed for legal reasons, a lot of them. But at the same time, I wanted to pay homage to these memories and I didn't want to forget. And there's a lot of people who guided me and inspired me in life to get where I'm at. And, the reason why I feel like I'm even alive today. And you forget over time. Your memory doesn't last forever. Like people sometimes say that it does. There's a lot of things that while I was writing it, I felt like I was taking a journey through time. I mean, you're
Mm.
reliving moments, even when they're terrible moments. They remind you like how far you've come. So in a way, like it was a therapeutic experience. So that was one of the things that really got me into wanting to write it. But in the meantime, I've seen so many people in my life who transformed, whether they transformed, to something greater or whether they've evolved to something worse. And I thought it was important to write a story that was honest like that, because so many people hold on to anchors their whole life, whether their relationships, their friendships. And I've watched people's, they waste their own life waiting for things to get better. And sometimes people, I want to say sometimes you got to keep your friends close and your enemies closer, because sometimes your friends don't want the best for you. I mean, this is a scary topic. Sometimes your friends don't want the best for you because,
Yeah.
you being in their life, if you're doing better than them financially, you got a better job than them. Some people are envious. And there's a lot of different aspects of the book, but I really wanted to show it as a therapeutic journey and how art affected my life and it got me through some of the toughest times. And how it really, how I hope that this journey will inspire others who possibly might be going through something.
Yeah, I think I mean, it moved me, man. I mean, just reading it, I mean, just seeing kind of where you came from. It's like, I think with our demographic, I don't think it's something a lot of people can relate to in a lot of ways. So, I did. I grew up not in the most lucrative means by any means necessary, and I think a lot of people, specifically from Sullivan County, can resonate with that and can resonate with your story.
Yeah,
And it was just cool to see the metamorphosis happen, to see you change, to see you grow and develop into the person that you were made to be, and to see
thank you.
you actually go from just a young age of having these aspirations to write and direct film. I mean, to actually doing it. I don't know, man. It was just really cool. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciated it, and it resonated with me. And I thought, man, it was just powerful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really hope for that effect for when people read the book. And a lot of people close to me, uh, they can't get past the second chapter. And though the second chapter, I've been criticized, I don't want to say criticized, but I've been asked by people, why did you put that in there? Something really horrible happens. But I think there's more painful memories in the story that are less socially, like, for example, in chapter 2, we talk about, a sexual assault. Well, later on in the story, there's things that are way less publicly insane that I feel are way more hurtful to me. So,
Mm,
and I think it's important to see how you become numb to the pain, but at the same time, you grow from it, you know, you become
yeah.
something else.
And how sometimes that pain moves you to do, I mean, some of the things that, I believe part of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like what happened to you early on was kind of a driving force behind you writing and working out some of these things that you ended up turning into art. I mean, turning into film, turning into
Mhm.
to things that will actually live on in history. I'm a firm believer that God works all things together for good. And even an ugly situation like that was turned around into art and film and writing.
Mhm.
Um,
It was the book to me personally. There's all these different stories that come together
mhm,
for all of us. Every
mhm,
character, and there's a lot of characters in the story, and that's why a lot of people, even my editor was like, there were some really close friends of mine and family members that they were like, listen, are they a part of your theme? Are they going to help you get to the goal for each chapter? And I'm sitting there like, well, they're my best friend. And she's like, well, they have to reach your theme. You have to make sure that these memories is when you're writing a book that's a few hundred pages long, it might have been 1,000 before editing. There's a lot of stuff
mhm,
that gets cut and shaved down. So you have to pick the stories and the moments that really show an evolution. And a lot of the characters, family members, friends, they give me little pieces throughout of the way they do things and the way, their belief systems are. And you take a lot of these moments with you, even if you don't agree with them. There was a part of the story where it showed how I went from household to household, when I lived with my grandparents, they all took turns raising me in a way, every other week. So I like learned how to condition myself in every different scenario, like how to, follow their house rule set, do their type of chores, go to bed at their time. Everybody has their own rules. And most children that I knew at that age, they had their mom and dad or whoever. And that's the only life they kind of knew. But I
yeah,
moved around so much, I had no choice but to evolve and adapt to every new lifestyle. And like you said before, every piece of the journey, like years later, I would have to move out here with nobody, taken out of the loop of my family from Buffalo to move out to the Catskills where I knew
mhm,
nobody. So I started from scratch. And
yeah.
that idea of starting over is always scary, you know?
Mm, hmm. Wow, man. Yeah. So where can people find this book? Metamorphosis, the art antidote Odyssey.
Yep. They could find Metamorphosis, the Art Antidote Odyssey on Amazon. Right now it's on Amazon. They could also go to my website, charlesmarinaro.com, and it's a link right back to Amazon. Yeah, they can find it there. They could buy it paperback, or they can put it on their Kindle or their phone or whatever off the Kindle app, relatively cheap. And please, if you do read it, leave a review. It's
Yeah.
crazy because you right now, I don't know what it is with Amazon or any of these things, but you could, you know, have 1,000 people read your book and write your reviews. And a lot of people that I've spoke to said that they, for whatever reason, Amazon won't allow them to write a review.
Oh,
So
that's
I
weird.
don't know
I
what
I
it.
I did end up reviewing it. I was able
Yeah, I
to.
appreciate
I
it. Yeah,
didn't
I
have an
seen it.
issue.
Yeah, some people. I think it's some people like they don't make so many online purchases or whatever it is. They're not allowed to. Yeah, I went through it. I was like, what's going on here? Like, but
That's
we'll get to
bizarre.
it. We'll get to it over time. But keeping the ratings up. But I did enjoy the experience of writing it. If you could write about yourself, I truly think whoever you are, if you could write about yourself, I think you can write about anything. Everything else is
Hmm.
a little easier, I would assume, because writing about yourself and telling those uncomfortable stories and even stuff you might be embarrassed of or silly stories that you're like, oh damn, did I really release that to the world?
Hmm.
Um, People have asked me, friends have asked me, like, it's a good book, but don't you worry about your internal thought being released? I'm like, what do you mean? Well, nowadays, you know, everybody's like going back on lyrics of songs and they're canceling them. and they're, going back to cancel culture. People are going through writers, famous writers, and they're saying, this guy was, he was evil, or things he did later in life, he kind of announced, if you look the subtext of his book. And there's a lot of internal thoughts in the book when I didn't think I was mentally right, or I was going through a dark time. My internal thoughts are very honest, and don't use my honesty against me, but it is a moment for me that it is challenging to know that you've released these ideas, and anyone's internal thought, everyone has them, but a lot of people are afraid to let them be understood.
So what advice would you give to somebody that maybe is on the fence about writing a book about themselves? What would be like one thing, like, if they could do today, what would you tell them to do?
What I would tell them to do, don't do what I did. Think about like your top 10 moments, and like think of a theme, what you really want this to be about. Once you find that out, everything else will be easier. When you're writing about your life, you can't just write story like chapter 1, I was born. You really got to think of a theme that connects it all. Like, for example, mine was art is therapy. So within each chapter, each moment, I kind of connected back to art, an art form, or how, and the art form to me was more, in the beginning, it started as escape. This art form was therapeutic to me because I felt like it was an escape to me. And later on, it became, this art form gave me power. I was able to make people laugh. I was able to, I can control someone's emotions, through my art form. Like they would cry when they watched one of my works or read one of my stories. So as it went on, it became more. So that was my theme, really. But for somebody else, you find the theme of whatever, you sum your life up into a theme and go from there. And that will be a lot easier. Then find the moments of your life that match that theme to go to the end. Now, there's no right or wrong path. I mean, I've heard stories where my friend James Ice, he actually wrote like non-chronological stories throughout his life. And they're fun stories. Some of them are sad. Some of them are scary. But they're literally, some stories are a couple pages. Some are, a paragraph long. And he has 2 books. Actually, I have right over here. Something and Nothing at All, and More of the Same Old Crap, James Zeiss. And it's also available on Amazon, but it's basically stories of his life. And like I said, there's no regular format. There is no format when doing this. But the only thing I could say is find a theme, how you want to do it, and be honest about the material you write. There's too many people out there that they fabricate. Like I could have made Metamorphosis, the art, Antidote, Odyssey, a whole lot more with pizzazz and blockbuster-esque. I could have like added all types of stuff. You can create a whole world, but then you're taking away from yourself. Like when I read the book, it takes me on a journey of self-discovery in an honest way. And I hope it does that for other people. I don't want to lie about situations. And some people, if you're okay with lying, don't call it a memoir. Don't call it an autobiography. Make a story. Create a story.
Fiction.
Yeah, create something fictitious. But there is people out there, and I'm sure there's many books on Amazon or other sites out there that they're not honest. And years down the line, there's people debating truths, and everyone, even my own. Listen, truth is relative because, like we said before, people believe what they want to believe. And even in my own story, there was people close to me who were like, I don't remember this way. And I explained to them like, oh, well, you and I weren't close at this time, or blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, wow. And it's just like, some people, they might not remember what you remember. They might not think the way you think. And some people will refuse to believe your reality because it hurts them. In my book, I've had uncomfortable conversations with people who have felt guilty about things that happened to me, but the book was never I'd never intended to throw dirt. There is people out there that when they write a memoir or a biography, their intentions is retribution, to like retaliate against those who did them dirty. though I have moments of anger and frustration within the book, there's many moments of catharsis and things happening for a reason. And I didn't intend for this book to get anyone hurt
Yeah.
in the aftermath of its release.
Well,
I,
hey man, it's your story, you know, it's you're telling your story. I think it's needed. I think like more people should should be honest about the stories that they're trying to tell. I think so I actually, this question is really for me because I do, you know, one of my dreams is to write a book. You know, and that's something that I believe honestly, like God told me to do this like years ago. And one day I'm going to do it. I don't know when. But part of what I want to do is tell a real story, unedited, really what happened.
mhm,
Um, and in a way that's not lame or it doesn't feel like you know, like real or authentic. And I think like my gripe with like Christian content in general is that a lot of them, they try to do that. They try to make this content more appealing, or they censor it, or you know, they tailor it, but then it just loses
it's
integrity. It loses
exactly.
the a feeling that connects people to it. You know, like like this is real life. You
Exact.
know, this is real life. It's not censored. You
I
know, this is how things happen.
I entirely endorse your statement because the truth of the matter is there's a lot of vicious scenes that happen within Metamorphosis. But I wanted this to be a spiritual journey for anyone to read, something that is uplifting ultimately. Uh, I wanted it to be a journey of self-discovery, something that you might be able to reflect on your own life. But in no way was I trying to censor moments of my intellectual thought or my process or what the things my regrets. And when people out there that read the Bible, we're reading a book that is not PG. We're reading a very intense book, death, carnage, but it has a story. We didn't censor that, and we should go continue, like whatever you believe. Censorship isn't the way. Um, you have to be honest and an honest approach, you know, tastefully. There's a tasteful way to do things, but if as long as you're telling it from an honest perspective, I don't see anything wrong with that. And
Yeah.
I think more people, and so many people, it was like, were you looking for sympathy or pity in writing these terrible things? No, listen, things happen. All things has happened to us all. And to be honest with you, in my own story, I become my own villain at points. And it's important to show evolution.
Yeah.
I could have made this look like I was, Jesus. I could have made it out like all the bad happened to me. I never had a thought in this, but no, I didn't choose to do it that way because I wanted you to say that people can change. Bad things
Yeah.
happen to me, and I felt like, I had to do bad things to the world to get back at it or whatever my mindset was at the time. And it was my honest approach on how I dealt with circumstances, whether they were right, wrong, or indifferent. And I think that's
Yeah.
the
And I
problem. Too
think
many
that's
people write. Too many people write and make themselves nothing but heroes.
Yeah.
Be
And
careful
I
doing
think
that.
that's just beautiful storytelling though. I mean, it's real. I mean, like not a, you know, like life can be gray, you know, it's not, you know, you're not always doing the right thing and you're not always the hero. I mean, but I think that helps people connect all the more. Just, you know, having seeing something that's just real, you know, I resonate with that. Wow, he struggled with this too, or he went through this too, or he experienced this, and I think that connects with a lot more people. So I guess just as we're getting ready to wrap things up, do you have any other final thoughts, anything that you wanted to share?
Well, I really wanted to thank you for this conversation. I think it was a really, honest conversation tonight. Too many people want to like tiptoe on eggshells. You get right to the topics. I really like that and I appreciate it. And it keeps it more fun. Um,
Yeah.
for people that, want to follow me after this, I do a podcast on Thursdays called The Thursday Exchange. It's also a page on Facebook. You can also follow me on charlesmarinaro.com. And for those of you who want to get involved, submissions open for my film festival February 26th, which is next Friday, I believe. And we got a few months of open submissions before the event date. It's going to be March 9th, or no, sorry, March 21st, 22nd, and 23rd is the days of the event. It's entirely free, no money. All you have to do is go to catskillfilmfest.com and view international films from all around the world. We're going to have Q&As, workshops, prize giveaways. All you got to do is go online and watch movies and interact and watch. And hey, you want to get involved? Hit me up. But yeah, the film festival is the major project I'm working on right now. And I'm just keeping it very interactive this year. The events like this is how we're going to do it, speaking to the public. And like I said, just being interactive as we possibly can and keep it COVID friendly, safe.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And what I'll do, man, is I'll put all the links in the comments or description, so that way people can get to them easily. Hey, Charles, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate just getting to connect with you. It's just cool to talk to somebody, that I know, that I have a little bit of history with.
Anytime. This was great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too, man. And I really appreciate it. Guys, check out his book. It was really powerful. I enjoyed it. Yeah, man, until next time, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot.